Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 3 of Watchmen. So, last time we found out a few things. We found out who the old guy is. He's Angela's grandfather. We got some little bit of stuff with like the backstory of Hooded Justice and everything. We got this information that the chief of police, who is dead, who died at the end of the first episode, who was friends with Angela and everything, might have actually not been as great as she would have thought. Might have actually been a very, very bad guy. A white supremacist, even. And we also learned that Angela's grandfather is apparently pretty high up in something. He's got some very, very big connections, as we see. And my theory is, just based on the way everything was set up with the episode, I'm thinking he might be like Hooded Justice. That's the only thing I could think of. It would explain why he's high up, why he has friends in high places. Excuse me. And even why he's so mysterious now. It would explain why why so much is being kept secret. And then we have Adrian Veidt, former Ozymandias, and he is just being a creepo in his mansion. His big thing right now seems to be reenacting the Dr. Manhattan creation, when John Osterman was, changed molecularly. And he's doing it by taking what appears to be clones, and putting them through this process where he's literally incinerating and killing them just to reenact this every time. Every time he does this, he apparently kills another clone of this guy. And it's just like, the fuck? But at the same time, it's him. It's Adrian Veidt. You can't really be surprised, considering everything he did in the main original story and everything. I mean, he's the main villain of the original story. Like, he tries to spout off some just really pompous bullshit about it, trying to make it look like he's doing the world a favor or something, like it's bullshit. He's just using excuses to try and make himself look better, to try and make himself look like some kind of hero in the eyes of the public, when in reality, he's just being a psychotic piece of shit. And we can see here that nothing has really changed with that. Jeremy Irons, great choice to play him in that regard, because Jeremy Irons is like, he's great at playing crazy and bad. He was the voice of Scar from The Lion King, after all. So, I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm definitely excited to see where this goes. But this is one of those shows that is very serious and very intense. So it does take a lot out of me. So just letting you know, if at any point, like, at the end of these reactions, if I ever look like I'm just drained, I kind of am. It's just that kind of show. It's pretty much as bad, if not worse, than Doom Patrol in that regards, where it's like it's heavy. It's very heavy and a lot to handle. And I can get through it. It's just, it takes a lot. Luckily, there's only like a limited amount of episodes. Like, what was it? Like, I think 7 or so? I don't know. It's a short amount of episodes, so it's not going to be too difficult to get through. But we'll tackle it as we go, you know? Either way, I'm definitely interested to see where they continue to go with this, because they left a lot of questions hanging in the air. And even questions that weren't really addressed outside of, just asking them like once. Like there was this one point in the last episode where they asked the question, or like just brought up the idea of like, what if Dr. Manhattan was living among us in disguise? And it's like it's never addressed again in the episode, but it's like the idea, what if he's like disguised himself as someone else and is just living amongst everyone this entire time? And it's just like, oh my god, just add in another thing to think about. That could be a misdirect, it could not be, who knows? It's hard to say. As they pointed out, though, he's supposed to be on Mars and everything after the events in the original story and all, so who knows? Just who knows? Because if he did come back down to Earth, why? What was his reasoning for such? Because he went to stay away from Earth for a reason. Because of basically losing faith in humanity. Just with the way that he naturally thinks and everything after he becomes Dr. Manhattan. It's just something he really wasn't willing to stick around for. After everything. So yeah, we'll see. Either way, we're just going to get this started. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, we have introduced Laurie Blake, or I guess reintroduced, kind of, to Watchmen. A character from the original story, the Silk Spectre. She is now an FBI agent hunting down heroes. She's hunting down masked vigilantes, and she has been now assigned to help out with the case in Tulsa, trying to figure everything out. And she's definitely been doing her research, as we end up seeing. Excuse me. Had an itch there. And kind of comes into confrontation with the different characters we've been introduced to in the first 2 episodes, with Angela, with Judd Nelson's widow, and we even get introduced to some new characters. Like, I think the senator is a new character. I don't think he was shown in the first 2 episodes, but we find out that he was behind the entire mask thing for the police. And he's even basically blackmailing. I'm just gonna say basically blackmailing Lori into helping by telling her that he can get Night Owl out of prison. Like, it's very clear what he meant with that all. But we also see in this episode that Lori is insanely, like, lonely. I think it's pretty clear that she's a very lonely person at this point, and is just, she misses John. She misses Dr. Manhattan. That's made very clear. All of the hints are there. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. I mean, she was with John for quite a while, and yeah, it makes sense that she would miss him. And we know, based on the fact that she agreed to do this, that she also wants to get Night Owl out of prison and everything. So it's like, yeah, everything's kind of connecting. Everything's kind of fitting together. It all makes sense for her to do this and everything, and I guess we're just gonna have to see where it goes. I'm just wondering, like, where is her story in here gonna go? Because we see already that she's not, like, obviously she's not perfect, but we see that she makes a lot of mistakes even in this episode. She thinks that the cavalry member is bluffing about the bomb attached to his heart, but not the case. And on top of that, we see her trying to get information from and connect with Angela, and the things she's saying are her, unfortunately, not making that any better. She's not like this amazing FBI agent who's perfect at her job, basically. She's shown that it's like she's a normal person. So in terms of that. So it's going to be interesting to see where all of that goes. And then the ending, we see the car, Angela's car, from before, being dropped right in front of her. And it's like, okay, so what does that mean? Were the people who picked up Angela's grandfather trying to send a message here, or was there something else going on? I genuinely do not know. But we got some things tackled here for sure. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's genuinely pretty interesting in the kind of route it's going. Adrian is still trying to do something, don't know what, but he's trying to do something, and apparently the land he's on is owned by someone called the Game Master, and they have like this agreement for Adrian living there. And the Game Master feels like Adrian's starting to break that, but he insists that he's not. But Adrian also insists that he's the good guy in all of this, so when that's clearly not the case. As was made very clear in Laurie's little joke story thing to John, to Dr. Manhattan. He thinks he did good and saved humanity when he dropped the alien squid on New York. He thinks that was a positive, and it really fucking wasn't. And even the idea, like, oh, I killed, like, millions of people, and you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet and shit. It's like, fuck off with that kind of thinking. I despise people who say shit like that. Because it's so utterly despicable. It is legitimately despicable to say something like that. To try and justify mass murder, or even just a single person's murder, by saying something that bullshit. It pisses me off. It does. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I felt that was coming, so I just paused for a second. But yeah, it's like it's clearly building up to something with him. And then we're still getting all the information here with like what's going on with the cavalry and what was going on with the chief. And it's very much implying still that the chief was part of the cavalry. Cavalry. Is it cavalry or cavalry? Either way, he was a part of these white supremacists. And the evidence is being hid by Angela because she doesn't want that getting out, and she's still trying to figure it out herself. But yeah, that's kind of what we're figuring. And it's funny to me. I was thinking about this during the reaction. It's funny that this series is tying the police with white supremacy, because it's like, if that's not as fitting as fuck, I don't know what is. It's just like they go hand in hand. They just do. So it's like, yeah, it makes sense to make that connection here. And Watchmen was like always doing that, always like giving like social commentary on just the state of things in America and everything. So that's it's not a surprise that they would make a connection like that is so relevant to current day and everything. But yeah, this episode was mostly introducing Laurie. That was the biggest meat of this episode. To introduce Laurie to the series and get her involved in everything. Not much else from what we saw in the first two episodes was really expanded upon yet, outside of the Adrian stuff. And we don't even get a lot with that yet. So, we definitely still got more to go. We got 9 episodes total. I was saying 7 before, but no, it's 9. I did check. 9 episodes total, so we're only a third of the way through. You could almost like cut it into acts or something, like I guess you could say like Arcane did. Arcane was like 9 episodes and it was like 3 episode acts. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of the same thing, I guess, here. But if it does present the episodes in that manner, that means the next act is going to ramp things up quite a bit, which I could see happening after introducing Laurie back into the fold. Starting to ramp things up from there would make sense. So yeah, I guess we'll have to see where it goes. But one big thing of note that's probably going to affect things going forward, the last thing I want to briefly mention here, is one of the things that was found out by Laurie was that Angela is a vigilante. She used her name and her vigilante name and everything. It's like, oh, she knows even that. So that's interesting. And Angela had a really weird response to it. It's like, that was a noise that you made with your mouth. But yeah, it's like, that's interesting that she knows about that. I wonder how that's going to come into play. Also, going in with the entire thing about Laurie being lonely, the part at the end and everything with the giant blue dildo, it's like, oh, you miss John that much. Okay. Was he that big? I'm weirdly curious about that, because it's like we saw his dick in the movie at least. And it's like, and I think it shows it in the comics too. Yeah, and it's like I guess he was like, it showed him as flaccid during those, but still, was he that big? Because that was massive. That was a huge dildo. But then she ended up going and sleeping with Pete, I think his name is. I think that's what they were saying. But she goes and sleeps with him instead, and it's like, oh, okay. Why not? I mean, you barely know the dude, and you two are kind of messing with each other constantly, it seems, but okay. I just thought that was like a interesting little addition to put in there. Um, but yeah, some interesting stuff in this episode for sure. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of Watchmen? Thank you so much for tuning in, and for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.